Hi, and welcome to In Focus. This is Jabbar Al-Ubaidi. In this episode, I'll be talking with the Chief of Police, Christopher D. Delmonte of Bridgewater at Massachusetts. My guest today in Focus, I would say special guest for two reasons. One is his line of work is really exceptional in terms of serving the community in Bridgewater and beyond. And also, he's not just professional in his line of profession, but also as a professor. He's teaching courses to students at Bridgewater State University. So Chief Christopher D. Delmonte is the Chief of Police. Chief, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I know you know how busy you are, and you gave us some of your valuable time. And so I welcome you to In Focus on behalf of our audience. And I would like to start with a general question. Can you describe your day when you wake up in the morning and then you put your uniform and you go? What's your day looks like, please?
It's a very interesting question, because there are often things that I deal with on a daily basis that are things that are or issues that have been around for some time. So I look at my day often in terms of thirds. So the first third of the day are addressing those issues that occurred overnight, those things that are pressing matters, personnel issues, people, what the events were that took place, over the last 24 hours or so. What are the impacts to the community? What are the impacts to our personnel? Equipment and facilities and all those things. I would describe those, probably the first third of the day is spent on those things that are here and now, those issues that have developed in the last 24 hours. The second third of the day, I would probably describe as once I've been able to deal with those issues of the day, then it's issues that are, recent in terms of a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, things like that. Issues that, maybe we have to, we haven't completely addressed it, or all the reports are not in, or the supervisors haven't, addressed this, or, it's a whole host of issues. So I probably describe that middle third of the day as those issues that have been around, are contemporary, but have been around for a few weeks and need to be addressed, or maybe just need a little tweaking or review. And then the last third of the day, although not every day looks like this, the last third of the day are those issues that are consistent issues, meaning budget, meaning personnel assignments, meaning what issues does the department need to be concerned about? What issues is the community having? What issues, or what are we doing for the future? What things do we have to plan for that are coming up ahead of time? And so a lot of times those things may be issues about, parades, special events, fireworks, events that the department is doing, whether it's Thanksgiving dinner for seniors, whether it's Citizens Police Academy, whether it's our personnel in various assignments like school resource officer. Where are we going to go with that? As you know, we have issues like police reform, policy matters. What do we need to change? What do we need to improve on? So in general, that's probably what the day looks like. They are never the same. I feel sometimes issues repeat themselves, but the day is never the same. And someday, much of your time is spent communicating, dealing with people, personnel, inside, outside, community issues, leadership, your civilian leadership of the town that has needs or concerns, or the town manager has things that need to get done, or the town council has, established certain priorities. They never, I find the days never repeat themselves, but sometimes those days are dotted by um, how should I say, tragedy or catastrophe. Today maybe, we've had somebody, killed in an accident, and that's, we're focused on that issue, which consumes part of your day. Maybe it is one of your personnel who's been injured during an incident that took place overnight. Maybe it is something, requests of the day that come in. As you know, we've been really what has been consuming is not is COVID-19, and that's true of everybody. What's been unique here is that COVID-19 is something that is it impacts people, and it impacts our people, and yet I am I just can't tell you how impressed, how pleased, how significantly I've been impacted by our personnel. So, a year ago, almost a year ago now, 11 months ago, when this virus really started to spread and things really started to change, our personnel really stepped up, and that's not me doing that. That's our people stepping up. They came to work every day. They continue to do that. Probably 25 or 30% of our people at some point have contracted the virus themselves through a variety of encounters they've had. As you know, we're in the people business. Yet they continue to march. They continue to come to work. So we've had a number of personnel who have been out dealing with that, sometimes, to varying degrees of illness themselves. But yet, after they've recovered, they've come back to work, and there are a few places in our society that did not close and just simply kind of do everything remotely. Our business is not like that. We don't operate remotely. We never have, and that's not something we can do. And our demand has always been there. The demand and the needs of the community are always there, like every other community. Those needs are always there, and I'm very impressed with the response I have seen from the police officers in this community. It's not unique to just police, obviously. The firefighters that are here, your town leadership, healthcare workers, your the people that are in, maybe it's the grocery business or these other businesses that, for everybody's sake and community welfare, have had to continue to succeed. They've had to continue to come to work, and they made a commitment, and I'm just very impressed by that commitment and their attention to duty throughout this pandemic, which, by the way, is not over. We still have a ways to go, but also keeping a positive attitude about it. That's difficult for everyone, right? No matter what your vocation may be, it's difficult keeping a positive attitude. And I'm just really impressed with the people that we have here, despite those ups and those downs and those difficulties and all of those other things that we experience out there on the law enforcement side. It's just been outstanding, and I can't say enough about our personnel.
So, Chief, you mentioned something that's always on my mind, and also media is always, collectively, every single cable TV, local cable TV, newspaper talking about police reform. What exactly police reform? What does it mean to you? Um, and what are the efforts that been made so far on your part as the chief and the department as a whole?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So, as we've spoken before, Jabbar, I view being a professional means that you have to change and improve. You're always trying to find ways to do what you do better, to be a better servant. Or maybe, you've discovered that this practice is not a good way to do things, and there are better ways to do things out there. And as professionals, that's what we're always striving to do. How do we do things better? How do we make the organization better? And how are we more efficient on behalf of the community? I mean, we're really the caretakers in a lot of ways. We're paid to be the caretakers of the community. And so we not only do we have to be effective and efficient and competent, but we also have to recognize that role and its value to a strong, thriving, vibrant community. So police reform has different meanings to different people. The legislature may look at it and say reform means this, this, and this, and that's the legalistic side. We see the social service side of it. Policing I'm proud to be a member. I've never been more proud to be a police officer than I am today. Um, Largely because of the people I work around, but also because of the support we've received from this community. The support we've received consistently, but I would say especially over the last year, has been nothing short of amazing and greatly appreciated by everyone. We get great support from the Bridgewater community. But police reform means that there are things that need to be done differently. There are things that need to be improved upon. And quite honestly, these are not a shock to the system. So let me give you an example. Massachusetts was one of only a handful of states in the country that did not have a certification process for police officers. So it was up to each individual police chief to hold officers to a certain standard, if you will. And that's my responsibility, and that's what this job is about. Um, but we, as the police chiefs in Massachusetts, have been advocating for the last several years for a police officer standards and training certification process. We, as the police agencies, have advocated for that. We didn't have a lot of support in the legislature until this year, and unfortunately, the tragic death of George Floyd back in May, and of course, that prompted a different political response. But we've been advocating for some of those reforms for years. I think sometimes, we differ on how to accomplish those things, but police reform is really about continuing to make improvements in what we do, and we do that, as you may know, is the Bridgewater Police Department. We're one of only 91 police agencies in the entire state of Massachusetts that is an accredited police department. That means that we open ourselves up to annual. Well, it's not annual. We do it every 3 years now once you're accredited. But we open ourselves up to review and analysis by an outside law enforcement body that evaluates what our policies are, what our practices are, what our procedures are, to make sure that we're using all best practices in our profession. And we live up to that standard. We were first certified in 2015. We received full accreditation in 16, and we were reaccredited in 2019. And we continue to do that. That's a every 3-year assessment, and we volunteer to do this. This is not something that's mandated. We volunteer to hold ourselves to that higher standard, and we do that. And that's not only through what we do; it's how we do it, and some of those policies that we put forward to do it the best way that we can.
I'm sure what you just said about accreditation, I think this is news some of the community members. I'm sure, and I'm glad you put this out there because it's important. And I'm also impressed at how your department and you yourself, because you are an educator as well. You kind of keep an eye on the standards and also how to treat people. So my question, in general, would you say your department and the combination of the officers in terms of the percentage of people of color, do your department represent in terms of its the number of officers represent the community? Because there's always comes the question, and I would say it, with the professionally and respectfully, all white officers, no, black officers and or people of color or officer of color. How can you address this? And do you have this issue? And how if there is a lack of that, how you're gonna address it in the future? Because what you said is really make a difference. And to me, it's something. I really appreciate to know that the department is actually open itself to this recreation. This is something I think you should be. I'm sure you are proud of it, but I think the community will be much appreciating how the work is being done over the years.
Yeah, good question. So the very first and the best thing that I can do as leader of a department is establish right away what our important priorities are. And our important priorities, which you can imagine, I'm sure you expect the same thing of any police agency, but it's about integrity and character. So the very first thing that I reinforce and stress and put at the top of the list is that character in who we select, is making sure that these are people of character. You don't have to run the fastest. You don't have to be the smartest. You don't, you don't have to be connected with political leaders and all of that stuff. It's all about character. Because I know when you face adversity, and you will face adversity in this profession, adversity is what you discover on a daily basis, whether it's somebody who doesn't want to be arrested, or whether you have to take enforcement action, or whether you're helping social services removing children from a house, or it's all of these, events that takes place. These are all, not pleasant things to have to experience, or a gruesome death scene, or some other some tragedy in someone's life. You're seeing people at their worst. The way you overcome those, the way that we continue to do our job professionally, is by employing people of character. And so that comes in the selection process. I put that at the top of the list. Those are the people that we want here. Men, women of all races, ages, ethnicities, backgrounds, religions. It's all part of that puzzle that makes policing professional. It's a big puzzle. And so, as part of that character that we're looking for in our recruits, in our new people, in those candidates that we want to select as police officers, the next is reinforcing how important integrity is. And the issues of policing, whatever neighborhood it may be, whatever persons we encounter, it's about integrity, and it's about that honor. And so I try to set the example myself in everybody I deal with. Some people may not like what I say. In other words, I have a job to do, and sometimes you have to tell good people bad things, or you have to say no to something, or it's just not always law enforcement is just not all about making everything right. I cannot make everything right. I can try to mitigate, the tragic consequences of an event to the best I can. I'm a human being. I am like everyone else. But I know that I treat everybody, I make effort every single day that I treat everybody equally and the same, regardless of background, regardless of what they look like, what religion they practice. That's integrity. And the best thing that I can do, and what we strive for, we work very hard at, and try to do every single day, is be people of integrity. Which is not, people think integrity is about, well, you're not a criminal and you don't steal things, and okay, we accept there's a line for that. We understand that. That's basics, but it's beyond that. It's about how you treat people, and it's how you treat everybody in your community. And the great thing about communities, and quite honestly, this community and this country, is that there is a whole host of people that are out there. And quite honestly, I find in law enforcement, and again, I can't say this about everybody, but in law enforcement, because we deal with people from all walks of life every day, I find that law enforcement is actually pretty good at recognizing that we have to treat everybody fairly. We treat people the way we want to be treated. I'm not saying we're perfect, and I'm not saying we don't have to tell good people bad things sometimes, or tell somebody no, they can't do certain things, or we have to take action. Those things do happen. But we try to be reasonable about it. We work extraordinarily hard on being fair to everyone. And that's one of the best things I can do. The second part, I think, of what you asked is, when it comes to makeup of your community, I think that's important to have pieces. Like I said to you, police department is a puzzle. There are certain people I have that are good at certain things. There's certain people that I have that have backgrounds in certain issues, that are knowledgeable in certain areas. That's what that's the beauty of what makes a law enforcement agency effective, is having people from all of those backgrounds. And we are always trying to do that. We are always trying to, if you want to use the word diversify, we're always trying to do that. We are a civil service agency, which means that we only get the candidates that we get from a statewide civil service test. And as I told you, all of those candidates that come in, when we try to hire new people, all of those candidates, character rises right to the top, no matter what the background is, no matter what the person's race, ethnicity, gender, all of those things are valuable. But what rises to the top is always character. It's always about integrity. And those are the things that I can do to make sure that we are a professional police agency. And as I said to you, I am an imperfect human. If somebody's asking me to be perfect, well, you know me well enough that I am imperfect as everyone else is, but we work very hard to make sure that we treat everybody with respect and fairly.
And thank you. So, how do you address a question in general, like
Mhm.
to an officer or to a student or to a resident? They hear about these things that if if a driver violates, was speeding. If it's a black, the dealing will be different from the white, from
Mhm.
Asian, from Middle Eastern. How to address this with your officers and also the community? As you said, you focus on two things: character and integrity. But how can you translate that into behavior and also to a mutual understanding between the officers and also the community?
Yeah, great question. So we do a couple of things. One of the things that we do, so let's talk about internal systems. So one of the things as an accredited police agency is that every year we do an analysis of certain policies that we have, of the ones that are most important, I think. So some of it's use of force. We do an annual evaluation whether we need to change things. What things can we do as best practices? And there are several policies that we annually review. Every single year, we go through and see if they can be improved and tweaked. One of those policies is our bias-based policing policy. And we do an analysis every year to look at all incidents and to see if we detect, as management, to see if we detect that there's policies or practices that personnel are carrying out that may be carried out in a biased way. We do that every single year. We review all incidents that take place, particularly when it comes to use of force, but also when it comes to even if it's simple encounters. So that's our internal process. That's something that we do every single year as part of an accredited agency, and something that I think is a good practice to do. So we have a system in place. Second to what you asked is when we reinforce those issues of integrity, we are also reinforcing those through training. So it's not as simple as saying, we've hired people of character and we stress the importance of being respectful and honorable and fair and professional to everybody else, but we also do it through training. So all of our officers have received training and will continue to receive training. Training is an ongoing issue. It's not something that just you check a box and we're all done. Yeah, they've been trained and that's it. We train to a certain level and then we continue to improve on that every single year. So you ask about some of the training that we've had in the past, and as I've said to you, policing in Massachusetts, I think generally speaking, is ahead of the curve in many other states in terms of its professionalism. And in Massachusetts, all police officers have gone through fair and impartial policing and procedural justice and understanding implicit bias and all of those things. So some of what we can do is clearly to train our personnel in maybe things they don't realize they're doing, or look for this issue before it becomes a problem. I think communication is key. As a communications professor yourself, you know how we value that greatly, and I think that's a lot of what it is. It's in communication. So another example, how we try to hold ourselves accountable, is we run citizens police academies. We bring people in from the public, citizen residents primarily, but we do take out of town residents if there's space in the class, and we show them exactly what we do, why we do it, and how we do it. And we take feedback from them. If they think that something's being done unprofessionally or is being done in a biased way, or any other way that they don't find acceptable as a community member, we have that constant give and take. We run that academy every year, and we've done it since 1999. And it's a great conduit for feedback for us. Tell us what we're doing right or we're doing wrong, or you think is being done unprofessionally. And so I think also too, as part of all of those other pieces of the puzzle, it's definitely about communication. So the fact, look, we encounter a lot of people. When you factor in how many encounters take place in policing across, well, that take place in Bridgewater, take place across Massachusetts, and take place across the country, the number is astronomical. And so when you take that into account and you realize how many people we deal with, even on a daily basis and a regular basis, I think you're going to find that policing overall is very professionally managed, and that your police officers today are better. The reality is that police officers today are better than they have ever been in the history of policing. So you'd say to me, well, wait a minute, we've had some incidents that look to me as troubling. Well, I would tell you there are several incidents that I would look back in history and say to you were troubling. George Floyd incident happens to be one of them. That's, to me, that's a criminal act. That's separate from policing. That's different. I've seen, there was an incident down in South Carolina, police officer shooting a subject, man running away and then dropping a weapon. Those are criminal acts. That's not about professional or unprofessional policing. Those are criminal acts. That's different. But I think when you look at policing today, your personnel are being held to a higher standard. We as police chiefs have to continue to push that envelope and make sure that people who wear the badge and carry out their duties on a daily basis are held to the absolute highest standards. And so today you have people who are coming in that are highly educated. 80% of the police officers in Bridgewater have a bachelor's degree level of education or higher. Many, if not most of that 80% have a master's degree level. And so you're going to find that the police officers today are more educated. They're dedicated in an environment where policing is tumultuous and sometimes based on current events. And so let me give you an example: is when the marathon bombing incident took place in Waltham and Watertown, excuse me, and of course at the marathon itself. But when the search was on for the second suspect, policing did not shy away. In fact, policing, many dedicated police officers spent, including some of our own who are on specialized units, were in Watertown searching for that subject. That's dedication to duty. And so you're going to find that police officers are very dedicated to what they do. They're very committed. And we're not an occupying force. Let me give you an example, Jabbar. When I started here in the late 1980s. I've been here more than 30 years, and I've been very fortunate to work in this community. When I started in the community, when we used to answer phone calls, the evaluation was about crime. Policing was about crime. In other words, if you called because you had a problem that wasn't necessarily a crime or a criminal act hadn't taken place, oftentimes policing saw itself, and of course that translated to the actual people, the police officers doing the work, as if it's not a crime, then it's not a police matter. And in reality, we knew that's not the right way to go about it. So now we use terms like, community policing means a lot of things: problem-oriented policing, service. There are a lot of words to describe how we've shifted. We never should have had that attitude in the first place. But when I first started, that's how we were trained. That's how we were taught. And that's wrong. We're not an occupying force. Policing is about being the gatekeepers and working to make our community better to the degree that we can, and be there to mitigate those tragedies and events as they take place, and they happen every day. And so what we can do and have done, and I think we are better for it, and the police officers that we have now understand it, is that we are a service-oriented organization. It's about doing what we can. We cannot solve all problems, but we can do a lot of things. We can be helpful. Oftentimes, people look at us as the ones directing traffic, like literally directing cars here and there. But in a lot of ways, I do the same thing in a social service sense, right? So I may not be able to provide that service to an individual, but I know where I can get it. Or I have somebody who's stricken by poverty and finances and tragedy in their life, and I can direct them over to a service agency that might be able to help them. Or we can have a different, there are different ways that I can support people in the community with, maybe it's addiction, and I can try to get them the help they need. It's not about crime. It's about getting them the support and the help that they need. We're a part of several, when I say we, the police department, Bridgewater Police Department, is a part of several organizations that are not based on whether someone committed a crime. So let me give you an example. Plymouth County Outreach. We're one of the founding communities with that organization. And that's about getting people the help that they need when they're suffering from addiction. At one time that was viewed as, it's about crime and stopping crime, and these people are bringing crime upon themselves. Well, hey, the reality is that that's a social service, oriented problem. Policing is not always geared to help with that problem. So here's what we've done. when we were able to professionalize in that area and recognize that we can do a lot more, we started police officers in Bridgewater. We're one of only 3 communities in Massachusetts that started carrying the anti-opioid overdose abuse drug Narcan. We started carrying that. Every police officer in this community had that life-saving drug, and we were carrying it in 2014. There were only 3, maybe 4 cities and towns in Massachusetts doing it at the time. And since that time, we've continued to be a part of outreach. So what we've done is not only be a part of those organizations, which includes Bridging Lives involving the school district, where we commit our own personnel to being a part of solutions for younger people that may be struggling as well. We also have a full-time clinician that's part of our regional jail diversion grant that we received, where we are the applying agency, and we did it on behalf of Bridgewater, East West Bridgewater, Whitman, and Middleborough, and the Bridgewater State University. We have a full-time mental health and substance abuse clinician. She spends her time, Katrina Lee, who is accessible to anybody in the community who is struggling with any of those issues. She rides with police officers, so if we go to a call and she happens to be on duty that particular night, we will actually take her to the call and help us address whatever that mental health or substance abuse issue is. That's not about crime fighting. That's about helping people.
Thank you so much for really establishing these facts. And thank you for, the men and women, all officers in your department, for their services to all of us in the community. Have you, and this is a question always also come to my attention, have you addressed the social or racial injustice, I would say, racial injustice, like during these recent professional developments?
So when you talk about, when you're asking the question about racial injustice, so I can tell you that when I talk about character and integrity, those are certainly components, because it's about treating everybody fairly. So we are we are here to be a service agency for everyone. And so one of the best things that we can do is root out and find out where those problems may exist. First of all, it starts with us. We have to make sure that that's not something that is a problem or has infected our organization. And once we are able to do that, and that's always something that you're always evaluating and reviewing. But beyond that, you can also speak out about it. I'm a member of several police chief organizations, one of which is I'm on the executive committee for Mass Chiefs of Police Association. And so when we review those kind of instances and we look for those kind of problems, we can also establish, again, those priorities of making sure that we are conducting ourselves in a professional way. So even if the incidents don't take place, right, the incidents haven't taken place, like George Floyd occurred in Minnesota and some of these other incidents, it's not to say they can't happen here. That's not accurate. But those incidents that were primarily most focused in and really have caused a shock to the conscience of all of us. Every police officer who sees the George Floyd incident or any of these other incidents that I speak about has the same look and has the same disgust that the public does. We're members of the public. We're no different. And we have that same disappointment, that same anger as everyone else does. And so all that does is renew our commitment to make sure that whether we're doing it, I have to do it here first, to make sure that we're addressing issues, if there are issues and problems, before they get to that to any kind of a stage that requires action, or making sure that we keep those problems out, make sure that that's something that doesn't, and for lack of a better word, infect us. But I also do it not only on a regional level, I do it on a state level myself, and I bring that back to our community. When I do those, when we talk about police reform, we're part of that conversation when it comes to police reform. There are many things that are part of police reform that are positive for policing, things that either needed to change. I spoke to you about posts that we've been advocating for years. We were advocating. Nobody told us we had to advocate for it. We did it because we felt it was a necessity to make sure that the professionalization stays to that optimum level. but we're doing it on the state level, and we also are part of other organizations that are even larger than that. So I'm a member of the FBI National Academy Associates, and we look upon that in a national level, and the International Association of Chiefs of Police, and we look upon those issues. They're always a part of our conversation and review process to see what we can do to make things better, not only for the profession but for the people that we serve.
Indeed, indeed. Now, I in my introduction I said also you are professor. How all these great experience and the things that you talk about, especially about character and integrity and understanding others. How all these experiences inform your teaching?
So it's been a great experience, and I really enjoy the opportunity with the college because a lot of the enjoyment comes not just from instruction, and I view it as trying to give back, because I teach at the university. I also teach in the police academies, and it's an opportunity for me. It's a learning opportunity, and I start to when I say learning, I'm learning about the attitudes, I'm learning about the interests, I'm learning about the motivations of newer generations of people, because that at its core is the essence of my business here, right? I need to understand who our personnel are, what motivates them, but also in the public and in the community. The community views things maybe differently than you or I, Jabbar. Our experiences in life and our ages is different from what people experience today. So it's a real learning experience. I hope I'm doing justice. When I say justice, meaning I'm giving back in a proper way, and giving them the things that I think I would have wanted when I was at that age or that experience level, and try to set them on a good path to give them the tools to succeed. So I'm very appreciative. I think the learning environment is, believe it or not, it's as an instructor, it's not just about conveying a message and conveying a certain idea. I am learning a lot from the students in whatever capacity they're in class for. So I'm very fortunate in that way, and it's valuable to my profession. I quite honestly, I think it's valuable to the community as well, that I'm able to do that and bring some of those things I learned back.
Thank you. The last question. I know it's in the news. There are a lot of activities, it's camp activities. Any message to our audience?
And so what was it? I didn't.
Scamming activities.
Yeah, and so this
As
is
I
a
say, this is
constant.
on and increased like these days, because it's the tax, IRS,
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
what. I know it's a kind of a small portion of the last question, but it's important, to ask this question. So, what's your advice?
Well, this is a question. All of your questions have been great. It's been good conversation, and thank you again for having me on. So this is something that we deal with daily, unfortunately. And so my hope is, and we've tried to reinforce as I talk about those other organizations that I'm a part of and our officers are a part of, is we try to reinforce to the public, one, that we are here for them, but there are certain things that they can do to protect themselves. And so, first rule, if it sounds too good, then it probably is. So be careful about who you're talking with on the phone. Today, again, phone numbers do not come back to the actual phone. There's all kinds of technology that's out there that can really convince people that that's the thing to do. So there are a lot of scams, and there are a lot of things that are out there. The unemployment scam, where people are fraudulently applying for unemployment benefits in person's name, is very common for us. And the solution really is at a different level, because this is across the country. This is not unique to Bridgewater or Massachusetts. And so I would really like to see the federal government take a stronger role in being a central hub and an investigatory body for it, because a lot of it involves out-of-state actors and oftentimes out-of-country actors.
Yeah.
And so I really am hoping the federal government becomes more active in a lot of those. Short version for us locally is always be conscious about giving out personal information, whether it's through email or phone contacts that you may receive. Do not give out personal information under any of those circumstances. And if you're ever not sure, you can always call us, because oftentimes we recognize the vehicle that's being used and the methodology that's being used. You know, the proposal that, hey, we've received, you get an email from supposedly the IRS saying, you're going to be arrested if you don't communicate with us and give us certain information. If you're not sure, then call or verify who is communicating with you. Closely scrutinize the email address. Phone is very much a hidden scam, because don't rely on, you see the phone number, therefore it's verified. It's not verified. So unfortunately, it's a problem. It's going to be with us for a while, and is pretty widespread. So you asked a great question.
So thank you. So in terms of I have 30 seconds. What something that you want to share with the community, something that you've been thinking about, and this is an opportunity to share it.
So it's probably, I don't know if I would say it's something to share, but it is a thank you to the community. I cannot tell you the support that we have received. We have a lot of dedicated people here, but the reason that they're dedicated is because they recognize this community is worth it. It's a great place to live, work, raise your family, and we work very hard to make sure that that it stays that way. And we do it in a professional and honorable way. And thank you to the community for all the things. We get cards and notes and emails and all kinds of things. And we're just very appreciative of the support we get from the community.
Thank you for watching In Focus. We'll see you in the next episode. This is Jabbar Al-Ubaidi.